if we get that, it is going to bring accountability in a heartbeat. Let me tell you what, if the Federal Reserve can't cover up all the spending, because, you've heard about the quantitative easing, and you've heard of all these, that's just buying toxic assets and throwing more money into the economy. And if you look at how much money has been made since 1913, and it really took off in 1970 and just skyrocketed in the last 4 decades, and it is their crutch, it is their revenue.
Scott,
Okay, so if you were elected, would you vote the Constitution every time, most of the time, or sometimes? And if you say every time, I'll hold you to it.
Let me start that one if I could, because I've taken an oath of office on several occasions to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Colorado. And it is my intention on every vote to uphold those constitutions. And so I would say every time, and I would also say, please, yes, do hold me to it.
It used to be fashionable for politicians to pull a pocket constitution out of their jacket pocket. I have a constitution app. But it's important that you have the Constitution that's close to you. And I will always vote for the Constitution. And the most important piece of it for a congressman really ought to be Article 1, Section 8, which lists very explicitly what the Congress is allowed to do. And if it's not there, Congress shouldn't be doing it. And thank you for your offer to hold us accountable.
Yes.
I agree with Ron Paul for wasting the security of the Treasury Department. And so,
All right, I know everybody wants to get repeal Obamacare, but he is pushing, Mr. Obama is pushing these sections in. Like now, I hear he's going to hire his 100 and something IRS agents to start instructing them what to do, looking at everybody's income tax and everything in Obamacare. How do we? What I heard is he is pushing all these little things in that it's going to be very, very hard to get rid of Obamacare. How do we get rid of it? If you were,
Well, first of all, we all hope that the Supreme Court does what's best, it takes the whole thing down, not just the individual mandate. If they go for the whole thing, I think it's going to be a lot easier to deal with. If they only take down the individual mandate, then it's going to be a real mess, and it's still going to. But let me finish it. So, I mean, Obama is the closest thing to a dictator we've ever had, and with all his czars and all his executive orders and everything, he circumvents the Congress. So I think the Congress's role needs to. They need to step up and enforce their powers to make sure. It's just unbelievable what how he is allowed to circumvent Congress all the time.
right, I mean, he just did it. Well, like I said, they said there, he's already hiring, and even if the Supreme Court does knock down the whole thing, he's going to have those IRS agents already hired. And that once they're hired, they're hard to get rid of. So they're going to be put into government someplace.
Well, if I had my way with my plan I told you about, there'd probably be about a third less civil federal employees, not just the
yeah.
defense, but
Hold on. Let me say this real quick. I'm a member of the Heritage Foundation, and we know that they read it first thing it came out, and then got the word out to the people. I called the other day because I was concerned that the justices said they could not possibly read the 3,000 pages. And they let me talk to someone, and they have it under control. They will be going through the health care bill and informing the in it, so they will know all the things that are in it. They won't just not, just, yes. So all I'm saying is relax.
Sure, let me grab this
That the
next.
Heritage Foundation is looking into it and does have the authority to work with the Supreme Court.
I'll say this, they would know a lot more about it than Nancy Pelosi then. However, you're quite correct, that there are a lot of tentacles to this legislation that are already being implemented. Here in Colorado, we have a healthcare exchange board that is gearing up already with federal funds. They took first $1 million from the feds that was given to the governor to spend without any authority, and then I'm on the Legislative Oversight Committee for that healthcare exchange board. Then they came to us and said, we want 30-some million, and because we've got half of the committee is Republican, and we said, no, that's too much, period. And so they went back to the drawing boards, and they said, well, how about 18? I still said, no, that's too much, because I don't think we should have proceeded at all. But they did get the authority, and so they are now spending that 18 million to come up with a plan to put the healthcare exchange board in Colorado in place, and that's going to take some unraveling here at the state level. Even as you pointed out, the other aspects of Obamacare are already taking root in many ways. The final thing I'll leave you with here is the House of Representatives holds the power of the purse. When this first occurred, I remember the first meeting I was in on the Legislative Oversight Committee. I called Cory Gardner. Well, I texted him is what I did, because I'm in the meeting, but I said, Cory, what are we doing here? And I begged him to do what he could, and I don't know what he did or didn't. I just passed the word back at that point to not fund these healthcare exchanges, to cut off the funding. All revenue bills have to start in the House. If we don't start it, it won't get there. So there needs to be a very careful, point-by-point defunding of those elements in order to scour it out of the system. And whether or not the Supreme Court throws it out, we need a Congress and a Senate and a President who has the courage to say no and the fortitude to follow it up with the action to actually take it away.
Of course, I hope that the Supreme Court does the right thing and throws the whole thing out. I have read the briefs on the issue of the mandate. The issue of the severability, can they just get rid of that? That's a question for the Supreme Court justices. I hope they will throw the whole thing out. When you look at a bill that's 2,000 pages long, that right there should be a clue. And the clue is, if it were full of good ideas, if there were 100 good ideas in there, there'd be 120-page bills. So guys like Jared Polis and Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama could take credit 100 times. Instead, it goes the other way. You know that there's a lot of bad stuff anytime something is that long and that complicated. What you bring up about some of the provisions going into effect sooner than others was intentional on the part of the Democrats who made this bill. And that's, first of all, some of the provisions are popular. And those are provisions that don't work without the provisions that are unpopular, but they can certainly build public support by having just the popular provisions go in first. Now, why are some of these things popular? They're popular because Americans believe that there is a problem in our health system, so we can't just repeal it. American people would not view that as solving the problem. What we have to do is move generally our policies from Obamacare, which must be repealed, and be replaced with a much more free market, patient-centric sets of policies. And I'm happy to talk more about them specifically, but we have to get government out of the places where government is messing up our healthcare system, where government is making healthcare more expensive, and that's in a lot of different ways. That